بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, today we'll continue the topic that we've been covering in Revival of the Legends, which is about the lives of Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim, about the life of Uthman bin Affan radiyallahu anh. And Uthman bin Affan's life is important for us from many angles, especially the way it has been presented by many, specifically the one who carries some sort of animosity towards Uthman, or in some cases Islam in general. And they have emphasized a lot about the fitna time, or the trials and tribulation time that happened during the time of Uthman bin Affan. Hence it is important for us to study it and understand that Uthman radiallahu anhu's life was not limited to that specific fitna time. Rather, as a matter of fact, it spanned over about 13 years, his era of ruling. And so far we have talked about his life prior to Islam, during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then we talked about during the time of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu's era. Today we'll talk about his life during the time of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, and if time permits we'll talk about how Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu was elected as the third Khalifa among the Khulafa Rashidin. And last week we talked about, in general, Abu Bakr's era and the role of Uthman bin Affan, and we saw that Uthman was in general a consultant, an advisor in the time of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. And we should not forget, in the time of Abu Bakr had Umar right next to him all the time. As some of the reports talk about, it was difficult to distinguish who was the Khalifa, Umar or Abu Bakr at that time. And yes, Umar was firm. Some cases people try to present him as a strict person, but at the same time it was balanced out by the compassion of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. And then when Abu Bakr passed away and Umar took control, now Umar was a strict one, and Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh, he became very close to Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh. And the closeness was so much that he was known to be as Ar-Radif. We talked about last week, he was referred as Ar-Radif. Radif in Urdu poetry and Arabic also is referred as something, the terms used for synonyms, or something which is linguistically who rides behind or stands beside another man and could play his role as well. That's what it means by this. When we say synonym of a word, that means that another word can replace that. So in this case, when he was Ar-Radif, he is the one who could replace Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu when Umar passed away. And that's what we saw anyways. Now, Uthman was very close to Umar, and when these two were not able to resolve an issue together, then they would reach out to Al-Abbas as well, and they would resolve the issue. Now, Uthman played also, again in the life of Umar also, his era of Khilafah, we find him to be an advisor of Umar bin Khattab. So Uthman continued to be advisor, he was part of the Shura, and we find multiple incidents that happened in the time of Umar, which are important to be discussed today, inshallah. Obviously, I'm restricting 10 years of Umar bin Khattab's rule and the role of Uthman at that time to some of the events, so we get at least a taste of it, how Uthman was playing the role of an advisor. And inshallah, we'll try to understand the relevance of this kind of advisory, this kind of a consultancy in today's time as well. Yeah. So it is mentioned about when in the time of Umar, when the Bayt al-Maqdis was sieged, and the Muslim armies were surrounding it. And at that time, the rulers who were the Christians over there, they agreed to meet Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. And they wanted to meet him because in their previous books that they had some writings that were referring to who's the one who will come to Bayt al-Maqdis and open it. And hence, Umar wanted to go there. Now, Umar, as usual, this is not something we're talking about, there's a wahi about the specific action. These are the means that you're using. So it's a decision Allah Azza wa Jal have left to the people how you are going to deal in this kind of circumstances, whether Umar goes himself or whether Umar stays behind or Umar sends somebody else. So he started asking for recommendation and advice. Uthman suggested that he should not go to them as a token of humiliation towards them. And he said to Umar, if you stay here and do not go to them, they will think that you are not worried about them and are prepared to fight them. And they will soon feel humiliated and pay the jizya. Okay, that was Uthman's understanding on the subject. And Ali radiallahu anh, he said that he should go. And Umar preferred the advice of, as we know, of Ali radiallahu anh here. Now, why is it important here, even though Uthman's advice was not accepted by Umar? And it is important for us as an advisor, in any place, any role that we are in. Advisory does not mean I have given the advice, you must listen to my advice now, or my way or highway. And by the way, this happens a lot. This happens a lot. In many circumstances, we see that advice was sought by some people in whatsoever issue, and then if that advice was accepted, people take it personally. How can I was asked for advice and my advice was not accepted? Well, see, that's the role of the advice. That's the role of the shura. That's the role of consultancy, that you try to get the best opinion and let the best opinion prevail. And doesn't mean that the one that you will choose will be the best opinion. Those opinions, maybe the opinion that you have chosen may not be the best opinion. But the thing is, you have to try your best to make sure that you have chosen the right opinion. And the ones who are giving the advice, they have to have this idea of, if it is not accepted, how to let that go. Okay, and we see that Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh, you don't see him keeping a grudge against Umar. How dare you did not accept my opinion? And look at the very same people, how they were advising each other. Isn't that the same person, or Abu Bakr at the time, that when Umar radiallahu anh reached out to them, both of them, Abu Bakr and Umar, for his own daughter to be married to him, right? To marry to the daughter. And both of them declined in a different ways. Whatever the story behind it, as we have discussed in the past already. But that did not create any kind of a rift, any kind of a crack in their friendship and their brotherhood that they had. So this is the role of the advice to be understood. For Bayt al-Maqdis, Uthman's advice was different than what Umar went along with. But we find that he continued to be an advisor to Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. Okay, so as we can see, Umar's during the time of Umar's Khilafah, the role of Uthman was an advisor, and we can see that as if the role was shifted. In the time of Abu Bakr, Umar was the advisor, close advisor, with the one who was the strict, and Abu Bakr was the compassionate. And then when Umar became the Khalifa, he's the strict one, now the compassionate one is the advisor. And you find them both all the time together with each other. So it was balancing out. And this is important for any kind of a thing which is called, if you want to refer to today's time, we refer to them as teamwork sometimes, right? So it is a teamwork. There are a group of people getting together and running the state affairs. So it is a teamwork. Now, what do you want in a teamwork? You want to make sure that the right resources are utilized to get the goal that you are working for. And in this case, you're running the affairs of the ummah according to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you want to make sure that you have all sorts of resources around you that includes different kinds of personalities are needed for different times and places. And that's what we see in those times. Now, another great thing that happened in the time of Umar was the establishment of the office of Diwan. Diwan, which is a record keeping. You're keeping the records or records. And because in the time of Umar, the state expanded very fast. And when we were discussing the life of Umar, we talked about that. In today's time, if you look at the countries that we have been divided into, unfortunately, that the Ummah is supposed to be one and we have been divided. Even today's time, the rule that Umar was ruling was about 20 countries of the Muslim lands. Either completely or partially. But under the rule of Umar, only Umar. And then in the time of Uthman, it expanded more. So now we are talking about it's such a huge mass of land, such a huge population of the world that was ruled by Umar at that time. Now, you cannot run a state like that without keeping the records. Especially when the wealth started coming in abundance. Now it's very difficult to know who has received and who has not received. And this is why Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh, he is the one who advised Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh to establish the Diwan system. Even though this Diwan system was taken, one report talks about from the Persians, another talks about the Roman. That doesn't matter. In general, I believe it's from the Persians, but the thing is, it was taken from outside of the Muslim land. The something practiced by outside Islam. Now, unfortunately, this very same idea of accepting the Diwan system was incorrectly sometimes seen as if Umar was looking for solutions of life outside of Islam. That is not correct, by the way. Yeah? So we have to understand what does it mean by that when he took the Diwan system from not from the ones the Muslims were ruling, outside of it. This is called, these are administrative issues. It's not the issue of halal and haram here, you're extracting from Quran. This is a halal ways of doing certain things. And you are choosing one of the halal ways. Like for example, if they were keeping records in the registers, now, those registers could be written on paper, could be skin of the animals, could be tablets. Now you don't say that, oh, because they were using paper, so we adopted that, so hence now this is a new rule in Islam. No, this is not what it is. This is just a means that you are using. Halal and haram would be, okay, is that allowed in Islam to keep records or not? Or to write them down or not? And it is a mubah action, it's a permissible action that Umar adopted from them. So administrative issues come under the category of it is up to Allah, has left it to the ones who have the authority to decide which way you are going to go. Okay, so that was done by the advice or the consultancy of Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu. Okay, similarly, we are going through a month. Many of us are witnessing or hearing in the news about that this is a month of Rabi'ul Awwal. Yeah, and then we talk about, oh, this is the 1447th year, 48th year, and so on and so forth of the Hijri calendar. Now, where did this calendar come from? And why this calendar starts from the month of Muharram? Why not any other 12 months? So now, when we go back to the history again, it was Uthman bin Affan's suggestion. Yes, Ali and other Sahaba suggested regarding the year should be from the year of the Hijrah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But let's not forget, that Hijrah happened in which month? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam reached Medina in the month of Rabi'ul Awwal. The same month we are talking about today, even though many of the people just remember him as the birth time, the day Rasulullah sallallahu was born in the month of Rabi'ul Awwal. Even though Rasulullah sallallahu migrated, which Ali referred to as the migration from Darul Shirk to Darul Islam. Yeah, migrating from the land of shirk, land of polytheism, to the land where Islam is the one that was ruling. Now, that's what Ali mentioned to it, and the importance of that, we have discussed that in the past. I'm not going to go into more detail here again. But the point is, then Rasulullah SAW was born, yes, in the Rabiul Awwal, but he migrated that also. And this was one of the greatest events, hence the calendar was marked from the Hijrah. Now, why Muharram? So, Uthman bin Affan is the one who suggested to Umar that he said that it should be the month of Muharram because this is the time people are returning from the Hajj. And this is the first month he referred to as we should mark. Another report talks about it from the perspective of Rasulullah SAW was given the bay'ah, the second bay'ah, pledge of allegiance, after which Rasulullah SAW was given the power or authority to come to Medina and rule over Medina. Now, hence, the Sahaba, but after the month of Dhul Hijjah, the migration in masses started from the month of Muharram. Rasulullah ﷺ started in the end of Safar, and his conclusion of migration was in the month of Rabiul Awwal. So this is how it happened, and this was again advice from Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh to make calendar start from the month of Muharram, not the Rabiul Awwal, even though Rasulullah's migration was in Rabiul Awwal. Okay? Now, today when we sit back and we talk about, calendar starts from the Muharram, we think of it, we don't even realize what's the big deal about that. It's a huge incident that happened that turned the life of the world upside down, or probably not upside down, downside up, but because it really brought the things to a straight path, right? Because now it changed everything, and this is what the historians refer to the migration of something like this. So when we think of calendar, instead of just thinking of, it's a new year, go to celebrate the new year and this or that, we should be thinking of the term that we're calling it all the time is a Hijri calendar. It's a Hijri calendar. What is the Hijri calendar? See, it's a sad thing that many a times we utter things and we don't realize the importance of those things. So this very specific thing was an advice or recommendation of Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh. And these are huge events happen in the history of Islam, and Uthman's role was there to advise Umar to be on that path. Okay. Then another thing that happened because of the expansion of the Muslim land in the time of Umar was the wealth was coming in abundance. Yeah. So it's not only the part of the diwan. If the issue became like, there's such a huge amount of wealth is coming, what should we do? Should we be just distributing because the conquests happen, and the ones who were the soldiers will be distributed among them, and that could be millions and millions of dollars worth of the value of resources you're talking about giving to those soldiers. Now, upon that, when Umar started discussing, and Uthman was again one of the advisors to Umar, to tell him that how we should be dealing with the wealth which is coming in abundance like that. And he referred to the ayah, or it was referred among them while they were consulting, where Allah Azza wa Jalla says, مَا أَفَاءَ اللَّهُ عَلَى رَسُولِهِ مِنْ أَهْلِهِ الْقُرَى فَلِلَّهِ وَلِرَسُولِهِ وَلِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ كَيْ لَا يَكُونَ دُولَةً بَيْنَ الْأَغْنِيَاءِ مِنْكُمْ. Now here, this ayah is talking about the wealth of fay. Ma afa Allahu. Afa is referring to, it's called fay. Fay is kind of a wealth that comes in when you are opening the lands, but without fighting. Okay? Now, that's a huge amount of wealth was coming, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him, to his messenger, from the people of the township, it is for Allah and his messenger and the kindred, the orphans, al-masakeen, and the wayfarer, in order that it may not become a fortune used by rich among you. See that? In Arabic, they use this, kay la yakuna. Kay is one of the particles which is used to pointing out, here there is something called an illa is mentioned. So distribution of the wealth is kay la yakuna dulatan bayna aghniya'i minkum. So the wealth does not stay just few hands. So how did they resolve this, that it does not stay in few hands? Yes, it was distributed to all those people, But the surplus of the wealth, instead of just giving to the people and the next generation will have nothing, it was kept in the treasury. It was kept in the treasury, and the needs of the people were fulfilled later on. Now, this about the Kharaji lands specifically, and we talked about Kharaji lands in the past. Those lands, the something that comes out from the produce, the land that people own there for farming and stuff, they have to pay a tax on the lands. Okay, Muslim, non-Muslim, both. Now here, so this is the fund that will continuously come in every year. So that, how do you deal with that? And that's what Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh suggested Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh how to deal with it. Now, other thing happened during the time of Umar was, this is the first time, and it was the last year of the Khilafah of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, which was the 23rd year after Hijri. Okay, Umar became Khalifa on the 13th year after the Hijrah, and on the 23rd year after the Hijrah, he allowed Ummahatul Mu'mineen to perform the Hajj. Okay, he allowed them to perform the Hajj. Ummahatul Mu'mineen, the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because of the protection of them. Okay, now who will be the one who will be protecting Ummahatul Mu'mineen? So Umar himself, and including Abdurrahman bin Auf and Uthman bin Affan, they were the guards, along with the other guards around them, who guarded the Ummahatul Mu'mineen. This is an event. It's a huge event. Think of the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam performing the Hajj, and they defended. And Uthman was one of the people who were defending Ummahatul Mu'mineen whenever they were going. For example, it's a long. When you're talking about on the camels or the horses going from Mecca to Medina, Medina to Mecca, it's not a short trip. It can take days. It used to take days to travel, about 8 days or 10 days or so. Now, during that time, of course, there is you have to take care of different kinds of needs. You have to go use the washroom, and it's not like you have oases left and right where you go and use the oasis and go out. No, you have to find a place which is away from the regular people. And they were guarding those places. For example, if Ummahatul Mu'mineen have to take care of those needs, and they will make sure that nobody is entering those areas, and they continue to protect them and perform the Hajj. So that's what Uthman bin Affan was also involved in the time of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh. Now, inshallah, I will talk about the appointment of Uthman as a Khalifa in next 8 to 10 minutes, quickly. So Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, as we know, I'm going to skip the part that we have already discussed in the life of Umar, how he was martyred, and after he was stabbed, when he was doing the Salatul Fajr, he understood that this is the time for him to go, because whatever food and the drinks that he was taking in, it was coming out from the injuries of the stabs. Now, Sahaba radhiyallahu came to Umar, and they started recommending him who should be the next successor of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh. Even they try to refer as Abdullah bin Umar should be the successor. And Umar rejected this kind of suggestions, and he did not want to even suggest anybody. And he said like this: the one who was better than me, which was Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, he nominated me. Remember that there's a difference between nomination and election, right? So Abu Bakr did not have the authority to elect a next successor, because that belongs to the people. He nominated. Now he said, so the one who was better than me who nominated me, the one who was better than him, which was Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he did not nominate anybody. So Sahaba understood, now Umar is going to go with nobody he's going to nominate. But when they continue to push, now Umar, he suggested 6 names. And his understanding of suggesting those 6 was based on, these are the 6 who belong to those 10 who were given the glad tidings of Jannah in this dunya. Yeah. Now, among them were, of course, Abu Bakr, Umar, and Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah also. So these 3, Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah, He passed away in the era of Umar. Abu Bakr, of course, passed away, and Umar was on the deathbed. So these three are gone. So there were 7 people. So why 7 and not the? Why he did not pick those all 7 and just 6? So let me give you the first 6, and then I'll talk about the why not the 7th one. The 6 he chose was Ali, Uthman, Az-Zubayr, Talha bin Ubaidullah, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, and Abdurrahman bin Auf, radiyallahu anhum ajma'in. The one he did not choose or nominate was Sa'id bin Zayd bin Amr bin Nufail, radiyallahu anhu. And the reason he did not choose him, because he was the cousin of Umar bin Khattab, radiyallahu anhu, and he was from Bani Adi. Because the father of Umar bin Khattab was Khattab, yeah, and all of them were coming from Nufail. So hence, Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh did not want any of the people from Bani Adi. Forget about his sons. Anybody from Banu Adi, okay, you're out. You are not the one who we're going to. He did not want any kind of favoritism, any kind of a nepotism, even though they were people who were of high stature in Islam, in the deen. Not talking about even wealth or anything. Stature-wise, understanding of the deen, they were big. Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anh was a famous mujtahid, was a famous person of the understanding of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sa'id bin Zayd, he was one of the 10 Rasulullah gave the glad tidings of the Jannah in this dunya. So we are not talking about people who were, even he did not allow that they did not worth it. No, they were great Sahaba. But he did not want any kind of a thing like this, that nepotism continues on. Now, when these 6 were chosen, Zubayr bin Awam radiallahu anh, after Umar was buried, so these 6 were there, and Umar actually made sure that these 6 should not be leading the prayer even. The one who's leading the prayer is Suhaib al-Rumi radiallahu anh. Because leading a prayer is one of the signs of, okay, this is the Khalifa. The main leader who's leading the Salah was one of the signs of the Khalifa, by the way, at that time. Now, so Suhaib al-Rumi was temporarily leading the Salah also. And he made sure that those 6 do not lead, so it would not look like as if Umar suggested that he should be elected as the Khalifa, even though he nominated those 6. So among 6, they were not the one who were leading, the one that was led by Suhaib al-Rumi. Okay. Then Zubayr bin Awwam radiallahu anh, he said, I gave up my right among these 6 after Umar was buried for Ali. So let's not forget, Zubayr and Ali, they were cousins to each other as well. Right? Zubayr was a cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Same way, he was a cousin to Ali radiallahu anh, from the maternal side. Now, Talha bin Ubaidullah, he said, I give up my right for Uthman bin Affan. Now, Sa'ad said, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, he said, I give up my right for Abdurrahman bin Auf. So these 3 are dropped out already. So yeah, these Sahaba, today we find that any kind of elections are happening, the masjid or this group or that group, whatever elections are happening, sometimes you find people as if this is something, if I get it, I made my day. No, this is a responsibility. It's such a huge responsibility on the neck of the people, whichever responsibility you have taken, by the way. Whatever. This is why Sahaba, you find them many times, they are trying to avoid this. So these 3 gave up already. Now, among them, Abdurrahman bin Auf, he gave up also. And he actually talked to Ali and Uthman. And he said, do you mind if I basically go and take the, because take the view of the people of the Ahl Medina. Medina, when we say Medina, is the place which was comprised of most of the Sahaba. Because in the time of Umar did not allow the Sahaba to leave Medina. Their permanent residence was Medina. The ones who were there, they are there, and even if they go out, they should return back. So most of the Sahaba were there. So they were the real Ahlul Hal al-Waqif. They are the ones who are the movers and shakers of the society of the Islam. Even though Islam spread to huge masses of the world, mass of the land. Now, So Abu Abdurrahman bin Auf radiallahu anh, he started collecting the information from the Medina, and people agreed on, we are okay with Ali to be the one, but with condition that he would follow the opinion of the Shaykhain. Shaykhain in this case was Umar and Abu Bakr's opinions. And Ali refused. So when Ali refused, Uthman only has one, because there's some of the story I did not talk about, what Umar, the way he placed 50 archers outside the house where they were discussing all those things, and they were told that they are given 3 days to elect one of them as the Khalifa among them. And if two are the one who are disagreeing with the other four, he was saying strike the neck of the two. If one disagrees and five agree, strike the neck of the one. And if there's a split voting between the three, between those six, 3 and 3, then he said Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anh is the one who should be deciding. And if they don't agree with Abdullah bin Umar, then whichever side Abdurrahman bin Auf is. Abdurrahman bin Auf was of a very high status among the Sahaba radwanullah alayhim. And hence, when it was decided, because Ali refused, so he went to Ali and he said, to Uthman Ali, so he said, now which of you is willing to give up his right of candidacy? First he asked, you two are the leftover candidates? If one of them give up, well, you ended up with one. Okay, but even that one has to get the bay'ah, pledge of allegiance from the people. It's not just by those few people. So both of them stayed silent, which means they both were okay to be in position to take over. So then Abdurrahman said, will you both leave this matter to me then? And I take Allah as my witness that I will not choose but the better of you. They said yes. So Abdurrahman took the hand of them, Ali, and said, you are related to Allah's Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and one of the earliest Muslims, as you know well. So I ask you by Allah, promise that if I select as a ruler, you will do justice, and I select Uthman as a ruler, will you listen to him and obey him? And Ali's response was yes. And he said the similar words to Uthman about Ali as well. And when this came out that people wanted Ali, but Ali refused, so at that time Uthman accepted, and Uthman bin Affan radiallahu became Khalifa. Now, why am I bringing this up? That's another thing to understand. First of all, in Islam, even though you find some variation of how the goal was achieved of electing the Khalifa, the Pledge of Allegiance was in all the cases, which is the bay'ah was in all the cases, meaning the people choose or elect the successor, the one who rule over them. Okay, in Islam, but rule over by what? Rule by Islam, not rule by their whims and desires, or the whims and desires of one or two or few or majority or all. No, rather what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. That's what it means by that. So that the pledge is about that. And also we find that is paying the price. World is paying the price. The injustice and corruption happening in the world, it is because of lack of Islam, absence of Islam from the arena that can bring the justice. Even though there's a lot of false information has been spread out that as if it's the Islam that's causing the corruption or the problems in the world. It's in reality other way around. So when we read this about Uthman bin Affan, how he was elected and how they continue to give up their own desires or something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is what we should learn from that. And this is what we should be striving for today when we are looking for any kind of leadership within the Ummah. Okay? So inshallah I'll stop here and we'll continue about the life of Uthman bin Affan once he became the Khalifa from next week inshallah. If there's any questions or comments about the subject covered,